Hey guys, Victor here, and today we're going to be doing an update on Lightsworn Bystial, which is still, a really cool, really fun deck that can pretty much explode at the drop of a hat. Just compared to the last version that I played, this one is being filled with a couple of more bricks, I guess, so it's not as consistent, but the power level, or at least like the potential for the plays, is honestly still there. And in many cases, I feel like it actually surpasses the previous build just because we wanted to experiment with a couple more cards that I think just mesh really well with the Lightsworn engine itself. So with that out of the way, let's just jump straight into it. Now, as always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup. So we're, of course, going to be playing 3 Lightsworn Dragonling. It's the newest card released out of Legacy of Destruction, and it pretty much gives you full combo every single time. All you need to do is have a Lightsworn monster in the graveyard, and that's because if you have a Lightsworn monster in the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then, when this card is special summoned, you're able to foolish any Lightsworn card from your deck to the grave. So you can hit your Wulfs, you can hit your Felices, you can hit your Weisses, you can even hit your spells and traps like Aegis, right? This card literally does it all, and it pretty much fits the mold for whatever situation you may need it for. And then for the third effect, where if it's sent to the graveyard, you get to add any dragon monster with 3k attack and 2600 defense, which is basically Judgment Dragon and Punishment Dragon. For this deck profile, we're just not going to be caring about that effect just because we're not playing them. We already have too many bricks as is, and since this is 40 cards, we wanted to keep the bricks to a minimum, if that makes sense, even though we are playing a bunch of them. But it'll make more sense when we actually get to the bricks themselves. But just know that even though Enlightenment Dragon is a really good card, you really don't need it just because the decks or the fields that Lightsworn are able to put up are already extremely oppressive and can 100% win the game on their own. They don't need something like Enlightenment Dragon backing them up to try and just win the game outright. So yeah, with that, 3 Dragonling must have. And then to accompany our 3 Dragonling, the other new addition from Legacy of Destruction is 3 Weiss Lightsworn Archfiend. This card just takes a Lightsworn card from your hand, puts it on top of your deck, special summons it, and then you get to mill 2 cards. So this effectively means cards like Wulf and Felis are no longer bricks, and you actually enjoy drawing 1, maybe 2 of them, just because it helps fulfill your Weiss, and your Weiss in turn will pretty much give you access to full combo, right? Especially if you're able to stack the Wulf, just because it gives you access to the Synchro Minerva. The Synchro Minerva will mill 2 more, and then you get to mill 4 more, and things just get out of hand really fast when this card resolves with a Wulf. And to top it off, its other effect is honestly really solid too, because if it's sent from the deck to the graveyard, you're able to special summon any Lightsworn monster except for Weiss. And we have a lot of really good cards, just being able to get back free fodder, or even if you're able to do something like, for example, bring back your Dragonling, right? Like I said earlier, it does not have to be special summoned by its own effect. So if you summon it off a Weiss, it will be able to trigger to send more, and then you just continue comboing on and on and on. So yeah, definitely got to play 3 Weiss. And then we mentioned Wulf earlier, so we're of course going to be playing Triple Wulf. It may not be 2009 anymore, but that's okay. Triple Wulf is finally good again, and it's all thanks to Weiss being able to stack it on top. I don't know what really needs to be said about this card. If you mill it, it's special summons. It's just another extender as long as you're milling it. If you draw it, it's okay. Nowadays, it's okay anyways, just because of Weiss. And then we have other methods as well, being able to just put it back in the deck. But you definitely have to play 3 of it. And then to accompany our 3 Wulfs, we're playing 2 Felis. So even though Felis is a tuner and in some cases better than Wulf, it's not the best card to have just because unlike Wulf, this card has to be milled by like a monster effect in order to trigger. So if you hit it off a charge of the Light Brigade, for example, it will not be able to special summon itself back from the grave. And that's pretty much like one of like the biggest knocks that I have against playing 3 Felis. But even so, it's still a really good card, and ideally you hit it at some point. And then for the final Lightsworn monster, we're playing 1 Raiden Handed Lightsworn. Just an okay normal summon that can mill 2 cards. It's an additional name. It mills 2 more cards during the end phase. This card was basically at 3 before because you pair it with like your Bystial monsters, then you'd make Baron to floor pretty much immediately. But since Baron's banned, this card's effectiveness has honestly kind of just gone downhill. But even so, you still should probably just include the 1 just in case. And that's it for the Lightsworn monsters. And now we can talk about the Bystial portion. So we're playing 3, the Bystial lubellions. You can discard it to pretty much add any Bystial monster. If you have a face-up level 6 or higher Dark Dragon, you can special summon it. And then you can take a branded continuous spell or trap and put it face-up in your spell and trap card zone, which we are playing because we're playing the branded Regain, spoiler alert. This card just like a really good general extender. It's a level 8, so it does help you make cards like Zombie Vampire or synchro into cards like Crimson Dragon, which we are going to be playing. This card, whether you're milling it or you're drawing it, is just a phenomenal card. And then to go with that, we're of course playing the 4 Bystials, being the 1 magnamhut, the one druiswurm, the one saronir, and the one baldrake. I just wanted one of each just because we wanted to make sure that we're not bricking on multiples, and we can pretty much just use all 4 of them during one turn if the situation arises. It's not always going to come up, but sometimes it does. Then we're going to be playing the Horus engine. So we're playing 3 Imsety, Glory of Horus, and the 1 Hapi. This is literally just there to make zombie vampire mill 8 feel great. Not much needs to be said. And then for the first brick, or I guess not the first brick because we are playing the Wulf and the Felis, but to go with our other bricks, we're going to be playing 3 Destiny Hero Malicious. So this is something that I actually really wanted to try out ever since Mally went to 3. And Lightsworns are honestly one of the first decks where Mally truly got to shine. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be playing Plague Spreader Zombies, so that means we can't stack Malicious on top of our deck with a Plague, Special Summon Plague, and then make Stardust Dragon. But we'll persevere somehow. Even so, you know, this card just gives you free fodder for links. Since we're playing a bunch of level 6s in the Bystials, we are able to play a couple of rank 6s and make them pretty easily. And then it's also just very easy to make level 10 synchros as well, thanks to the multitude of level 4 tuners that we play. This card, it's even though it, like I said, it is a brick, we have plenty of ways to actually get rid of it now thanks to the Horus engine and some of the cards in the spell section and the extra deck, so there's not really much to worry about. All you need to know is malicious, free fodder is always good. And then we just play a bunch of 1-ofs after that. So we played the 1 wyverburster with the 1 collapserpent, just good level 4 extenders. Not much needs to be said. I know I say that a lot, but it's honestly true, you know, because they're literally just there for bodies to help us link, climb, or synchro easier. We have the shufflers being the Mudora and the Keldo. Graveyards are still very important in the format, so you have to include something like this. And like worst case scenario, you can just shuffle your own cards back, which, because let's face it, sometimes you are going to be hitting like multiple malicious or whatever, or you just need like a Bystial in your grave back in your deck that's been milled so that you can add it off of your magnamhut during the end phase. You know, just little things like that go a long way. So you definitely have to play the shufflers. And then for the final monster, the 1 Starliege Seyfert. Whether you're normal summoning this and then sending it to add Lightsworn Dragonling, or just banishing it from your graveyard to add Bystial lubellion to continue comboing off, this card, even though it is only at 1 in this specific deck, it does so much, and honestly, it should be an auto-include for most Lightsworn piles just because it just facilitates combo plays between like Chaos monsters so easily. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now, compared to the monster lineup, the spell and trap portion is really small, and it's because I always try to keep it under 40 cards, but even so, every single one is really impactful in what it does. So we're going to be playing 3 Charge of the Light Brigade, mills 3 cards, and literally gives you full access to whatever combo line you may need, whether you're adding the Dragonling, the Weiss to unbreak your hand, whatever. This card it's really good. However, we're not going to be playing Solar Recharge just because Ash Blossom is still very much a card, and even though we are playing the Horus engine, which pretty much auto dies to Ash Blossom, we don't want to have the Solar Recharge for the same thing, just because it takes a little bit more setup, and there are some situations where you just don't want to discard a Lightsworn card, or if you don't want to discard a Lightsworn card, or you just don't have a Lightsworn card to discard. So yeah, this is more than enough to get the job done. Then that's it for the only 3-Os that we're playing. Then we just play a couple 2-Os, being the 2 King Sarcophagus to go with our Horus engine. We're playing 2 Branded Regained. Now, whether you're hard drawing this or you're pretty much like setting it up through your Bystial lubellion, this card, I don't know, it's so broken in this deck. And it literally just allows you to pretty much outpace your opponent at every single turn. And one of my favorite things to do, you know, is just banish a malicious, special a malicious, activate Branded Regain, stack the malicious to the bottom of the deck that we just banished, draw a card, and then we literally have more fodder. The fact that this card is literally able to pretty much allow you to outpace your opponent consistently is just insane. And then if things couldn't get better, if your opponent decides to summon a monster, whether it's like normal or special summon, you're able to reborn a Bystial card from your graveyard. So you can bring back your Dispaters, you can bring back your druiswurms, you can bring back your baldrakes, and then your opponent has to deal with them again. And it's really good at helping you just deal with cards like Nibiru or Super Poly that which end up originally like wiping your board or whatever. Yeah, this card, it literally just does so much for the deck. And then for the final spell, we're just playing 1 Chaos Base. You pretty much always see this whenever you play the baby dragons. But even without those guys, you can still search out cards like your Bystial lubellions, and all you have to do is discard your Brick and Destiny Hero Malicious, which we are more than happy to do. And much like Branded Regain, you can banish this card to stack a light or dark monster from your banish zone to the bottom of your deck and draw a card. So yeah, it's literally just free pluses for no reason. And that's it for the spells. And then for the traps, we just play the 1 Lightsworn Aegis. This literally is just to help back your unbreakable boards by ensuring that you don't get beat up by a Dark Ruler no more or a Forbidden Droplet, as long as they don't send a trap. So yeah, with that, that's the spell and trap lineup. Now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Much like the main deck, the extra deck is honestly pretty malleable as well, and that's because there's just so many different cards that you can take advantage of in the Lightsworn deck that it honestly can get a little overwhelming at times. And honestly, that's one of the things that I actually really like about Lightsworn, just because there's so many different choices and so many different valid reasonings for cards that you may want to include or exclude, whichever, whichever one you prefer, to the point where there is no correct answer for what you should and shouldn't be playing. So just keep that in mind when actually just looking through this deck profile, because things can pretty much always change at the drop of a hat. Now, something that should always be in your extra deck is Minerva the Exalted Lightsworn. This card, you just attach a material, you mill 3 cards. For every Lightsworn card you hit, you get to draw a card. Pretty much a staple in Lightsworns ever since it was released back in 2017, maybe 2016, I want to say. It's been a while. But even so, this card is still really good. We do not care about the destruction effect, however, where you just mill 3, and then for every Lightsworn card you hit, you get a destroy a card. We're literally just using this to mill 3 to forward our engine during our turn. And a lot of the times this card isn't even going to be on the field. We're typically going to like link it off, or we're just not going to get to the point where its destruction effect really matters. All we care about is pretty much activating the effect, milling double Wulf, Felis, and going full combo on our opponent. Then, to accompany those exceeds, we play a couple of rank 6s because we play the malicious with the Bystial. So we're playing 1 Pilgrim Reaper, literally Kelbeck and Aegis at home. For every dark monster in both players' graveyard, you get 200 attack and defense, and then, like I said, you mill 5 cards from each player's deck. It's okay. I honestly don't feel like you really need this card just because the deck already mills so much, but it's nice to have like an additional option. And then to go with that, we play 1 other rank 6, being Willow, founder of the Drudge Dragons. So this card gains 100 attack and defense for every card in your opponent's graveyard, which means that it can pretty much vary. So if you're playing against a deck like Tearlaments, for example, which tends to mill their entire deck on turn 1, or a Lightsworn Mirror, this card's going to be really strong. Or you could just be getting like a 200-point boost because your opponent just decided to drop shifter or whatever. Point is, we're basically just using it for its other effect, where depending on the number of materials you detach, you can target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard, and then, like I said, depending on the number of materials, you get a different effect. If you detach 1, you can shuffle that card back into the deck, and if you detach 2, you can set it to your side of the field. So this is like a really cool way of being able to just take opponents' key cards and using them for yourselves. And if you're like breaking an opponent's board, there's a lot of times where you go Willow, and then you can even do something like take a Triple Tactics Talent, for example, and then use it against your opponent on that same turn. And it does get pretty big, much like Pilgrim Reaper, pretty fast depending on the deck you're playing against. But much like Pilgrim Reaper, I also don't feel like it's that necessary. It's just one of those things that I wanted to try out because we're playing so many level 6s. Then something that you do need to be playing is 1, the Zombie Vampire. Because we're playing the Horus engine, you got to take advantage of this. You just attach, you get to mill 4 cards from your deck and your opponent's deck, and then you get to special summon a monster for free from either pile. That was milled, obviously. And then it's a 3k beat stick, it's a dark, I don't know. We're literally just caring about the mill 4. And that's it for the Exceed monsters. And then for the links, we're playing the 1 Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. We play so many dragons, and this card is just a phenomenal interrupt during our opponent's turn, because during our opponent's turn, we contribute it and then bounce 1 face-up card on the field back to the hand. And when you prepare it or like combine it with like the other end board pieces, a lot of the times that just is game on its own, especially for a deck that is super reliant on its normal summon. I don't know, this card is just really good. And then on top of that, it also gets you a dragon from your deck, and it doesn't negate their effects. Like, it turns their stats to 0/0, but it doesn't matter because, like I said, we still get their effects, so we can continue comboing off even harder, even if it's our opponent's turn, or just set ourselves up for pretty much like the easy win on our turn. Then to accompany the Hieratic Seal, we're playing 1 IP Masquerena, and that's pretty much always just going to be going into SP Little Knight because SP Little Knight's broken, and that's it for the Link 2s. And then we do play a couple of Link 4s. You play the 1 Starliege Skull Dread just because this deck has so much fodder on the field, and you're pretty much just always going to need something big to link all those cards off. And Starliege honestly feels like a really good niche just because it takes those brick cards in your hand, right? Like your maliciouses, or just like just things that you don't really want, and you're able to stack them to the bottom of the deck and then have like easier access to them. And then on top of that, it also special summons monsters from your hand, so it just further extends. And the thing that I really like about that, in addition to that, is that it's also a dragon. So you typically want to go into like your Starliege first, and then at some point later on in your combo, you're going to be linking off the Starliege with another dragon into your Hieratic Seals, which is really easy because this deck plays a lot of dragons. And then for the final link monster, you just have the really good one, Appaloosa, Bow the Goddess. Much like Saryuja, like I said, we need to be able to link off our cards, and Appaloosa along with Saryuja are probably some of the best link 4 monsters you have available to you, so might as well use it. And then when you pair it with cards like Lightsworn Aegis to protect it from cards like Dark Ruler No More or Triple Tactics Talent, the game gets sealed very quickly. I'll just put it that way. And that's it for the link monsters. Then we play a bunch of synchros. So we're going to be starting off with Crimson Dragon. This card is basically just there to cheat out synchro monsters from our extra deck, whether it's like Dissipator or Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. That's literally all it's there for, and it's very easy to make, right? It just takes one tuner and then your level 8 monster, whether it's like your Horus cards or your Bystial Lubellions, plus your tuners, which are typically going to be like Raiden, Weiss, Felis, which are all level 4. So it's very easy to bring out, and it's very easy to get its effect off as well. And then speaking of Dissipator, we're playing the one Dissipator. This card, since Baron is gone, is pretty much like the go-to combo card that allows us to protect ourselves, and gets by key resources from the graveyard. It's able to negate and destroy cards by returning banished cards. It just does everything. And then for other level 12s, we're playing one Chengying. This card's okay. You're typically not really going to make this, but there are some times where you just justify like making this during your end board just to continue to be even more oppressive than you thought you could already be. And it doesn't really come up often, but it's just it's nice to have like an over imposing threat available to you at any time. And then this is probably the main card that you're going to be targeting off your Crimson Dragon to be able to cheat out your Bystial Dissipator. So, you know, it's just nice to have it. And then for the final level 12, we're playing the one Chaos Angel. You play a bunch of lights, you play a bunch of darks. It's very easy to cheat this out and get it pretty much immune to battle and just monster effects and then banish cards on the field, and it just becomes a giant pain for your opponent to actually deal with in this specific version. And whether you're going first or second, this card is just phenomenal and shines pretty much every time it's summoned. And that's it for the level 12s. Then we just play the level 8s. So I mentioned Crystal Wing earlier. It's not an omni negate, but it does help you stop monster effects such as like Nibiru, and you're going to be special summoning that out by using your Crimson Dragon to target your Minerva, which if you get Minerva out on the field and its effect resolves, you basically just won the game because it really does do that much, as it's able to foolish up to 2 Lightsworn monsters depending on the material used, and it's pretty much always going to be using 2 Lightsworn monsters to summon it, so you're always going to be selling 2. And then on top of that, you get to mill 4 more cards by banishing 4 Lightsworns. So, you know, just really good cards doing really good things. And with that, that's the Lightsworn Bystial deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!